Let's get started. The Vol View starts right now. And as always, baby, it's football time in Tennessee.
You're darn right. It's football time in Tennessee.
Football time in Tennessee.
Oh, yes, it is. So Tennessee is staying within state. Their in-state rivalry, quite one-sided. If it's that one side, I don't think it's much rivalry. Point is, Tennessee's going on the road to Nashville, one of my favorite cities in America. I love Nashville, to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. At Vanderbilt, the Tennessee Vols are 11-point favorites in this game. So before we talk about the game, I did want to talk about sort of just a quick sort of overview of the season. So this was a year for Tennessee where I thought coming in, they would finish somewhere around the 8-9 seed in the SEC. Or the SEC, in the college football playoff. I think I had Notre Dame in that area. By the way, Tennessee, Notre Dame could still play in the college football playoff. I like Tennessee in that matchup if they were to square off. But I have almost predicted Tennessee's season, just as it relates to results, to a T. 10-2, not quite good enough to get in the SEC title game, but a good enough strength of schedule, good enough resume. You get in the playoff, you could potentially host a playoff game, and they're a win away from putting themselves smack dab in the middle in the college football playoff. So they got help last week. I talked about this last week on the Vol View. Tennessee played UTEP. They were supposed to get the job done. But some things need to happen ahead of them. They just did. And what I thought, you go back and look on the show. I said, keep an eye on Gainesville, Florida, my most hated enemy. Our most hated enemy as Tennessee fans, as Vol Nation, the gosh darn Florida Gators. But I said, Ole Miss, yes, it's a big game for them. Ole Miss wants to keep themselves in the playoff mix. But this DJ Lagway kid, I'm nervous about this kid moving forward, especially next year when we go to Gainesville, where we are literally cursed as a program. DJ Lagway, he good. He real good. Big kid, can move, big arm. Upset LSU the week prior. And son of a gun, for the first time in my life, I pulled for the Florida Gators on Saturday, and I was not disappointed. Now, I will have to say, I will have to call out some of my friends in Vol Nation. The Gator chomp at Neyland Stadium, bit much. Didn't love that. We can pull for Florida for the benefit of Tennessee. There's nothing wrong with that. No Gator chomp. Let's make sure we never, ever, ever, ever do that again. With that said, they got additional help. Alabama was ahead of them. Shouldn't have been. Lost badly to Oklahoma, who, by the way, Tennessee crushed. So, and by the way, another things, A&M lost. They were behind Tennessee, but A&M lost. There was crazy things happening in college football. Here's what I know about the Tennessee Volunteers as it relates to their season. Let's just put it this way: they have inarguably a top 5 defense in college football. When you look at, if we could pull up the numbers here on my phone, when you look at what Tennessee's done this year, okay? Third down defense, tops in the SEC, 5th in the country. Total defense, 2nd in the SEC, 6th in the country. Scoring defense, 2nd in the SEC, 4th in the country. Tackles for loss, 3rd in the SEC, 6th in the United States of America in college football. Tennessee is a top 5 defense in the country. James Pierce is going to be a top 10 draft pick, or at least he should be. Unbelievable pass rusher. Dylan Sampson, single-season touchdown leader in the history of Tennessee Volunteers. He broke a 95-year record in order to set that mark. What it comes down to for Tennessee is this. Go with what got you there. Pittsburgh Steelers-esque. We're going to run the football. We're going to dominate you up front on both sides of the ball. We have some ball hawks on defense like Jermon McCoy, who can get his hands on the football, make some plays potentially with it. And Nico Iamaleava. I've seen growth. I've seen progression. There are points this season, such as the early season loss to Arkansas. Late game, looked a little green, a little nervous. Feet got a little bit, moment looked just a little bit too big for him. True freshman, essentially. Now, even that game against Georgia where Tennessee got shut out in the second half, lost by 2 touchdowns, he seemed calm. He didn't turn the football over. He was efficient. He didn't look like the moment's too big for him. That is key for an opportunity for Tennessee to potentially make a playoff run. And this is the biggest game anybody on that squad's ever played. Anybody in that squad's ever played. It's the biggest game for Tennessee Volunteer, the Tennessee Volunteer football program in 2 decades. I believe that. You could make a case South Carolina 2 years ago when they laid an egg against the Gamecocks but this is it. On the road against as difficult a Vanderbilt Commodores team as Tennessee has played in quite some time. So Vanderbilt 6-5, they're bowl eligible. This kid, Diego Pavia, the New Mexico State was New Mexico State transfer. This kid he can play. He's got some moxie. He's got, again, a little bit of, I keep saying, I use this to describe Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston. He's got a gamer in him. He's going to play hard. He's going to run the football. He's going to push it down the field. He's going to beat you with the deep ball like he did when Vanderbilt upset, at the time, the number 1 team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, when they nearly upset Texas at home. And by the way, they gave LSU problems in Death Valley. The Tigers won that game by 7. So this is a Vanderbilt team that's well coached, that has pride, that looks at themselves in the mirror and say, we beat Alabama. We could have easily beaten Texas. We're not scared of Tennessee. We can beat these guys. Vanderbilt ain't scared of you, Vols. You got to come in ready to go, ready to execute. Noon kickoff, or really 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time in Nashville. You got to ride Dylan Sampson. Got to work with the play action. You got to hit the deep ball because they going to hit you with the deep ball. I think this is actually be kind of a competitive football game. Vanderbilt would love nothing more than to cap off what's been one of their best seasons in program history. Upset number 1 for the first time in the history of Vanderbilt. Could have easily been Texas. All these different things. To put yourself in position to upset Tennessee, your in-state rival, big brother who's owned you forever. The Vols got to know that coming in. They got a big old target on their back. I think they recognize that. I think this is a high-scoring output for the Tennessee offense. I liked what I saw last week against UTEP. It is UTEP. I get that. Expect to see a lot of Brew McCoy down the red zone, a lot of Dylan Sampson, and defensively, a whole lot of James Pierce. Give me the Vols, obviously. 34-20. They do cover 11 points. Not crazy about that line, but Tennessee does win 34-20 over Vanderbilt. They do cover, and in doing so, the Tennessee Volunteers punch their ticket to the college football playoff, the first 12-team college football playoff ever. And at that point, they got to wait for results around college football tomorrow and next week in the conference title games to see, hey, we know we're in the playoff. Do we get a home game at old Rocky Top in Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, Tennessee, Knox Vegas on Rocky Top? Let me tell you something. I've been in Neyland Stadium many times, including this season. That place gets loud, to put it mildly. I've heard games against Florida, the decibel level. I've heard games against Georgia, the decibel level. I was there for Alabama. Couldn't hear myself think. You think that's loud? You think that's loud? By the way, my dad just corrected me. It says 9-1. It should say Tennessee 10-1. It should say 9-2. My apologies. 9-2 Tennessee. You want to talk about loud. You want to talk about loud. If Tennessee gets in Indiana, old cocky, Signetti coming in there, or if they get a Penn State who hasn't played anybody and has struggled against average competition, woo, that Rocky Top going to be roaring for 60 minutes. But that's not a guarantee yet. It's not a possibility unless you beat Vanderbilt, which I think Tennessee will. They'll get the job done and take home the title over Vanderbilt. Gets 10-2. I apologize. That graphic's a 9-1. Should say 9-2. My bad. But Tennessee gets double-digit wins, second time in the last 3 seasons under Josh Heupel, and they'll get the job done 34-20 and clinch their spot in the CFP. Got a couple of comments here from Patrick before we get out of here for the Vol View. Patrick says Peyton Manning, the great Peyton Manning, the sheriff, should commentate a Vols game. That would be very, pretty cool and very entertaining. Hey, I listen. You won't find a much bigger Peyton Manning fan than me. Or really than all of Vol Nation. We love the guy, of course. And I love the Manning cast with him and Eli. So, hey, I would love to hear Peyton. He's been the broadcast booth for some Tennessee games in the past, but like for a whole game, I'd like to see it. So, that is it for this week's edition, as big as ever, of the Vol View. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.